once again filming from a different source today. I'm filming on my computer. I think, you know what, if this is reasonable and the quality is good and it works with not waking my son up who's gone to bed in the other room, then I think this might be like the best possible option. Not that I won't use my camera sometimes, because it's actually nice to mix it up with where I'm filming, but I'm going to try this today, and then also it makes it a little bit easier to upload immediately because I'm uploading these videos straight after I film them, and if it's already on my computer, obviously it's easier. This is the first day in which I've actually filmed 2 videos in one day. So I filmed scrolling earlier today and it went pretty well. Scrolling is going to have probably, over the next few weeks, is going to change a lot just as I experiment more whilst I can. I just want to play around with things and see what works. And now that this video series is coming as the hyper relaxed one, scrolling may well be something a little bit more polished, and I might play around with editing in it and stuff like that. So it's quite exciting to think about. The only thing is going to take a lot more time, so I might have to not find any time to read, or maybe I would need to drop a hobby that I have. Not that I have many, because looking after a baby is like I'm working, obviously. Like the combination of those things doesn't leave you with a lot of time, but I wouldn't change it for the world. It's incredible, man. Every day, Stanley, my son, just he lights up the world. Just little things like tickling his feet, and he's just smiling and giggling away, and then putting his feet out, kind of wanting you to do it more and things like that. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. What I want to talk about briefly today is, I mentioned that I got this book, Psalm. Where is it? There it is. Okay, get used to that. A Psalm for the World Built by Becky Chambers. I got this from the library, and I wanted to read it for ages, but they ran out of editions on Amazon, and now they're actually back in stock after me saying that you couldn't get it anywhere the other day. They're back in stock now, and the second book is actually out. But I started reading this, and I just want to talk about 2 things. So this is like a first impressions video, if you will, and I really love it. Like I'm a few chapters in, and I really love it. And first thing I'll talk about is that one of the main characters, I think there's 2. I think there might be 2 perspectives in it. I think it's the monk and the robot, and I'm only in the first half of the book still. But the monk, which I think they're called sibling decks, I want to say. That's the problem with like being sleep deprived from having a kid. Like you forget things that you should remember. I mean, I read that today, but I think it's sibling decks, and I refer to them as they. And this is the first book I've ever read where the main character, the pronouns used for them is they. And I mean, I don't have a problem with that at all. I'm like completely cool with it. The only thing that's really interesting is that it's, as I'm reading it, I am having to kind of like, my brain is doing automatic things with the word they in a sentence that is throwing me off. So I think often I'm thinking of a plural, so it's throwing me off a little bit. And it's just this really interesting idea of so if there are going to be multiple new pronouns introduced into language that are used often, and or if not, say multiple, if it's just they, for example, then our brains will have to adapt. And I like I said, I'm completely cool with it, especially the pronoun they. Like I don't see that as a problem at all. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that here, because I think it's a subject that you have to talk sensitively about, because you know that people have very strong opinions, and their feelings, like people can get very hurt by people talking about it insensitively, and I'm not willing to do that. So yeah, it's just cool. I find that very, very interesting, that when new words get introduced into language, the way that your brain has to adapt. Like my brain is preset to see they as plural, so when I read they, I'm a little bit thrown off as to who it's referring to, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's the pronoun for the main character, sibling Dex. But separate from that, really, you know, that's a cool thing for Becky Chambers to try in a book as well, because that could have gone wrong. I mean, that might have caused publishers to kind of turn their noses up and say it doesn't work, it doesn't read right, or whatever. But then you have the other side of it where I'm sure a lot of publishers are progressive and want to be on the right side of things like this. So what I really love, as I've mentioned, I like this book a lot already. What I really love is this idea. So the monk sibling decks, I can't describe the context of the book too clearly, but they become, so they have, I think the idea is that they can have various things that they're dedicated to, and sibling decks moves from one particular vocation. What's an avocation? Sibling decks moves from one vocation to another, and I think it's like quite a big jump. It's the equivalent of one of us quitting our jobs and going and, I don't know, deciding we're going to travel. I mean, that's essentially what they do. And what Dex decides to do is to become a tea monk. And what a tea monk is in A Psalm for the World Built is, a tea monk is basically someone who simply listens to people and offers tea. And I think the tea is like a prescription for the particular thing that they're going through, and it's a mental thing. Actually, maybe there's some physical aspects of it involved, but it's more so like a tea to soothe them in their particular state of worry. So they're like almost like a counsellor that you have tea with, and it's just beautiful. Like the idea of that you could spend the day being there for people, offering them a tea that suits them most in that moment, that will make them feel better, and just listening. Imagine if we lived in a world, and I know there are places or particular, I guess, groups like church, for example, where you can go and talk to someone, they will listen to you. But imagine if we just had that dynamic more present in everyday life. Like there were places where you could go and they would just make you a tea and listen to you, and often you don't need to give advice, you just need to listen to someone, as we've been told many times if you read psychology books about helping people. Often when someone comes to you with a problem, they don't want your advice. If you listen to them, they can solve the problem themselves, or if they don't actually want to solve it, they can work through the emotions and experience the emotions more clearly, and sometimes resolve them through just voicing it themselves. I mean, you've experienced it too, where you talk to someone else about your problem and all of a sudden you've magically kind of come to the conclusion without them even, all they've had to do is kind of offer like oh yeah, and how does that feel? Like, how do you feel about that? Like, what does blah blah think about what you're going through? Something like that, and you're there, and you're like, well, how did that happen? That person's worked magic, and they haven't had to butt in with their strong opinion. They've just listened. Man, I really, if I have the time in my future life, which I'm sure I will, and I guess then it's just me being brave enough to do it, I would love to go and sit on the street with a variety of teas and coffees and just sit there with a sign that says, come and tell me what you're going through, and just sit there and listen. I'm going to leave it there. Second video for a day. I'm glad I've done it. This, out of all the days when I could have gotten away and just said, no, you know what? Doesn't need to be one today. Today is that day, and here I am filming, and that's what I need to do. So thank you for those that are joining me on my journey this early, and I'm going to leave it there. Take care and sleep well if you're going to bed soon, and have a great day if you're not. Cool. Bye bye.